You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI AM 640 is Later with Mo Kelly. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app, and we're checking in with the DNC. It seems that they're getting ready to have Governor Walz speak. I believe he's coming to the stage now. Stephan, is he coming to the stage? Oh, there he is. No, he's coming now. So let's go ahead and turn up the audio on that.
Please welcome the Democratic nominee for Vice President, Governor Tim Walz.
He's acknowledging various people in the audience.
Thank you. Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you, first of all, to Vice President Harris. Thanks for putting your trust in me and for inviting me to be part of this incredible campaign. And a thank you to President Joe Biden for 4 years of strong, historic leadership. It's the honor of my life to accept your nomination for Vice President of the United States. We're all here tonight for one beautiful, simple reason. We love this country. So thank you to all of you here in Chicago and all of you watching at home tonight. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your determination. And most of all, thank you for bringing the joy to this fight. Now, I grew up in Butte, Nebraska, a town of 400 people. I had 24 kids in my high school class, and none of them went to Yale. But I'll tell you what, growing up in a small town like that, you learn how to take care of each other. That family down the road, they may not think like you do. They may not pray like you do. They may not love like you do. But they're your neighbors. And you look out for them, and they look out for you. Everybody belongs. And everybody has a responsibility to contribute. For me, it was serving in the Army National Guard. I joined up 2 days after my 17th birthday, and I proudly wore our nation's uniform for 24 years. My dad, a Korean War era Army veteran, died of lung cancer a couple years later. He left behind a mountain of medical debt. Thank God for Social Security survivor benefits. And thank God for the GI Bill that allowed my dad and me to go to college, and millions of other Americans. Eventually, like the rest of my family, I fell in love with teaching. Three out of 4 of us married teachers. I wound up teaching social studies and coaching football at Mankato West High School. Go Scarlets! We ran a 44 defense. We played through to the whistle on every single play, and we even won a state championship. Never closed the yearbook, people. But it was those players and my students who inspired me to run for Congress. They saw in me what I had hoped to instill in them, a commitment to the common good, an understanding that we're all in this together, and the belief that a single person can make a real difference for their neighbors. So there I was, a 40-something high school teacher with little kids, zero political experience, and no money, running in a deep red district. But you know what? Never underestimate a public school teacher. Never. I represented my neighbors in Congress for 12 years, and I learned an awful lot. I learned how to work across the aisle on issues like growing the rural economies and taking care of veterans. And I learned how to compromise without compromising my values. Then I came back to serve as governor, and we got right to work, making a difference in our neighbors' lives. We cut taxes for the middle class. We passed paid family and medical leave. We invested in fighting crime and affordable housing. We cut the cost of prescription drugs and helped people escape the kind of medical debt that nearly sank my family. And we made sure that every kid in our state gets breakfast and lunch every day. So while other states were banning books from their schools, we were banishing hunger from ours. We also protected reproductive freedom because in Minnesota, we respect our neighbors and the personal choices they make. And even if we wouldn't make those same choices for ourselves, we've got a golden rule. Mind your own damn business. And that includes IVF and fertility treatments. And this is personal for Gwen and I. If you've never experienced the hell that is infertility, I guarantee you know somebody who has. And I can remember praying each night for a phone call. The pit in your stomach when the phone would ring, and the absolute agony when we heard the treatments hadn't worked. It took Gwen and I years, but we had access to fertility treatments. And when our daughter was born, we named her Hope. Hope, Gus, and Gwen, you are my entire world, and I love you. I'm letting you in on how we started a family because this is a big part about what this election is about. Freedom. When Republicans use the word freedom, they mean that the government should be free to invade your doctor's office. Corporations, free to pollute your air and water. And banks, free to take advantage of customers. But when we Democrats talk about freedom, we mean the freedom to make a better life for yourself and the people that you love. Freedom to make your own health care decisions. And yeah, your kids' freedom to go to school without worrying about being shot dead in the hall. Look, I know guns. I'm a veteran. I'm a hunter. And I was a better shot than most Republicans in Congress, and I got the trophies to prove it. But I'm also a dad. I believe in the Second Amendment, but I also believe our first responsibility is to keep our kids safe. That's what this is all about. The responsibility we have to our kids, to each other, and to the future that we're building together, in which everyone is free to build the kind of life they want. But not everyone has that same sense of responsibility. Some folks just don't understand what it takes to be a good neighbor. Take Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Their Project 2025 will make things much, much harder for people who are just trying to live their lives. They spent a lot of time pretending they know nothing about this. But look, I coached high school football long enough to know, and trust me on this, when somebody takes the time to draw up a playbook, they're going to use it. And we know if these guys get back in the White House, they'll start jacking up the costs on the middle class. They'll repeal the Affordable Care Act. They'll gut Social Security and Medicare. And they will ban abortion across this country, with or without Congress. Here's the thing. It's an agenda nobody asked for. It's an agenda that serves nobody except the richest and the most extreme amongst us. And it's an agenda that does nothing for our neighbors in need. Is it weird? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's also wrong. And it's dangerous. It's not just me saying so. It's Trump's own people. They were with him for 4 years. They're warning us that the next 4 years will be much, much worse. You know, when I was teaching every year, we'd elect a student body president. And you know what? Those teenagers could teach Donald Trump a hell of a lot about what a leader is. Leaders don't spend all day insulting people and blaming others. Leaders do the work. So I don't know about you. I'm ready to turn the page on these guys. So go ahead. Say it with me. We're not going back. We've got something better to offer the American people. It starts with our candidate, Kamala Harris. From her first day as a prosecutor, as a district attorney, as an attorney general, as a United States senator, and then our vice president, she's fought on the side of the American people. She's taken on the predators and fraudsters. She's taken down the transnational gangs, and she stood up to powerful corporate interests. She has never hesitated to reach across that aisle if it meant improving your lives. And she's always done it with energy, with passion, and with joy. Folks, we've got a chance to make Kamala Harris the next president of the United States. But I think we owe it to the American people to tell them exactly what she'd do as president before we ask them for their votes. So here, this is the part, clip and save it and send it to your undecided relatives so they know. If you're a middle-class family or a family trying to get into the middle class, Kamala Harris is going to cut your taxes. If you're getting squeezed by prescription drug prices, Kamala Harris is going to take on Big Pharma. If you're hoping to buy a home, Kamala Harris is going to help make it more affordable. And no matter who you are, Kamala Harris is going to stand up and fight for your freedom to live the life that you want to lead. Because that's what we want for ourselves, and it's what we want for our neighbors. You know, you might not know it, but I haven't given a lot of big speeches like this. But I have given a lot of pep talks. So let Let me finish with this, team. It's the fourth quarter. We're down a field goal, but we're on offense and we've got the ball. We're driving down the field. And boy, do we have the right team. Kamala Harris is tough. Kamala Harris is experienced, and Kamala Harris is ready. Our job for everyone watching is to get in the trenches and do the blocking and tackling. 1 inch at a time, 1 yard at a time, 1 phone call at a time, 1 door knock at a time, 1 $5 donation at a time. Look, we got 76 days. That's nothing. There'll be time to sleep when you're dead. We're going to leave it on the field. That's how we'll keep moving forward. That's how we'll turn the page on Donald Trump. That's how we'll build a country where workers come first. Healthcare and housing are human rights. And the government stays the hell out of your bedroom. That's how we make America a place where no child is left hungry, where no community is left behind, where nobody gets told they don't belong. That's how we're going to fight. And as the next president of the United States always says, when we fight, when we fight, when we fight, thank you. God bless.
You've been listening to KFI AM 640. That was the nomination acceptance speech for Tim Walz, Minnesota governor. And I have to say, I was very surprised at how relatively brief the speech was. He didn't go much into proposed policy that a supposed Harris-Walz administration would feature. He did not spend a lot of time talking about presidential nominee Harris. It was just an overall short speech. It was to the point. I think it was heartfelt. He spent time talking about his own personal story, difficulty starting a family. He talked about his kids, Hope and Gus, and you couldn't see the visuals, but his family was very emotional at that point. But it was still relatively short as far as vice presidential nomination speeches go. I can't put an exact number on it, but it was maybe 20, 25 minutes at most.
He ran through his greatest hits, though. Weird, We'll Sleep When We're Dead.
Mind Your Own
Damn Business,
yeah.
the big hit.
Yeah, but he didn't. I'm not grading it as far as quality, just saying, it wasn't all that long. But I think it did what it was intended to do as far as get the crowd going, formally introduce himself to all the nation in the way that J.D. Vance introduced himself to the nation. Similarly, telling his backstory, telling about the road that he took to this moment, and humanizing himself, humanizing the person who's at the top of the ticket. And it'll be interesting to see what happens when these two eventually debate, talking about J.D. Vance and also Tim Walz. Two big personalities, more so than we've seen in recent years as far as vice presidential candidates. If you were to compare that to Mike Pence and Kamala Harris, the last cycle, it's not the same. Different dynamic. I would expect more fireworks this time around. We're a different time in America, so incivility is probably going to be more featured than civility, I think. But that was it. I was expecting it to actually go closer to 9:00. Maybe the Democrats got the memo. It's like, hey, you need to end the damn show earlier.
Less is more.
Because the first two nights they went way over. And this one, and obviously Tim Walz's speech closed out the night, ended at like 11:40 p.m., but relatively speaking, 11:40 p.m. on the East Coast, but relatively speaking, that was early given the first two nights. And before he started speaking, I was giving some numbers about viewership and trends and patterns, how that can be indicative of swelling growth, more interest in a convention or declining interest. It will be clear by tomorrow if the Democrats still have escalating viewership. That means the message is landing. More people are tuning in. They're reaching out to more people, and people are wanting to see more of the convention. Now, Donald Trump did 25 million viewers for his speech, and that will be the bar. That will be the reference point for Kamala Harris. The Democrats have beaten the Republicans, at least in the first 3 nights. Well, let me put it this way. The first night of the DNC was, in terms of viewership, was higher than the first 3 nights of the RNC, and the second night of the DNC was higher than the first night of the DNC. And depending on what this night does, whether it's higher or lower, we'll get a clearer sense of which way they're trending, and then we'll be able to match up Kamala Harris's viewership numbers against Donald Trump's numbers, and we'll see where it stands. And I think we'll also get some fundraising numbers. We haven't seen any for the past couple of days as far as what has been coming in, specifically tied to the DNC and also her campaigning simultaneous to the DNC. You may remember that Kamala Harris was in Milwaukee yesterday campaigning as the DNC was also in mid-swing. It's Later with Mo Kelly. We'll have more in just a moment. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Just a final thought on the events tonight at the DNC. You may not know this, but the Democrats, the DNC specifically, they have more than 200 digital content creators who have been given media access, and they've been placed down front to create in real time as the convention is going on. That's significant in and of itself. It's even more significant when you realize that this is the first time that the party has ever done anything like this. For all the social media that we've seen, that we've participated in since maybe, I would say Barack Obama, he was the first presidential candidate to really utilize social media. He used Facebook. Former President Donald Trump utilized Twitter. So we're talking some 16 years ago. This is the first year Republicans and Democrats have utilized influencers as part of their national convention. The RNC had 70 online personalities this year, and the Democrats have credentialed more than 200, meaning the battlefield is very much in the digital space. And here's the difference. When you have traditional media, there's certain rules that traditional media has to play by. You're limited as far as the time that you can air something. Like, for example, the DNC's over. Local broadcasts have already returned to their regular programming. Now, cable news, they'll have some other spin. They'll have conversations. They'll have analysts, but they won't have as much of the core content, which was available early in the evening. But social media, that's 24/7. You can put together TikToks. You can put together memes. You can put together all these short videos and send them anywhere and everywhere. And they're not required to show the same, I'll say, journalistic restraint that a broadcast would have to show or cable news would have to observe. You have much more freedom to craft a message, and you have much more opportunities to reach people young and old. Remember, I said earlier in the show, maybe you don't remember, I said that the Democrats were struggling mightily with viewers. Note I said viewers 18 to 34. In other words, 18 to 34, for the most part, they're not tuning in. They're not watching what you might have watched tonight or what we heard here on KFI. They're doing their own thing. And if they should come across either of the conventions, it'll be via social media. And so the DNC has made it a priority to make sure that you do come across something, some part of this via social media, specifically TikTok, specifically X/Twitter. Those short videos, those memes, easily shareable, easily digestible. And that's how they're trying to shape opinion. And it's not just about this election. Think about this. You have thousands and thousands of first-time voters. They may register as an independent. They may register as a Democrat or Republican. but most likely their voting preferences will likely stay the same for future elections. They'll probably, if you can get them now, get them young, they'll probably stay with you. Now, as they get older, historically, people tend to get more conservative, small c, as they get older. But when they're young, they usually lean to the left. They're more open to certain possibilities. And that's why both parties are trying really, really hard to get these young people, and you have to meet them where they are. You can't expect them to tune into, I guess it was maybe a 3 or 4 hour event today. I think the DNC started sometime around 5 o'clock our time, and it's going on 9 o'clock now. You can't expect someone who has better things to do to tune in to these conventions, but they will watch a 60-second TikTok, or they will open something that was sent to them by a friend who was found something really cool or very funny, or something that is, going to pique their interest on TikTok or Facebook even, or maybe not Facebook. That's for old folks now,
Yeah, what about MySpace, Mo?
Look, MySpace still exists. I don't know who's on it, but it still exists.
Tom is on it.
No, Tom sold it
Okay.
and is living on a beach somewhere, counting his money to this day. I had a MySpace page. I know it doesn't work anymore, but let me just go to myspace.com. It still exists. It's still up there.
I like that you had to use your own code on MySpace.
You did? What type of code?
You had to, type stuff in code.
Oh, no. Oh, yes. You could. Yeah. You had HTML capabilities where you could decorate your own page. You could change it colors and everything. And then they realized that was not a good idea in a security sense.
Right. But I do not think young people are going to MySpace for their politics at this point.
Look, old people aren't going to MySpace for anything. Hey, Stefan, did you ever have a MySpace page? Was that after you?
I sure did. That was the beginning of social media for me. And I do remember being able to code like that. It made you feel like you're this IT guy.
Yes.
You could just, put in all the things you needed, and it's like, oh, now your background's green.
Right. And I think that was my first foray into just light coding, just to get some of the ideas of how HTML worked. But I had I want to say I had a MySpace page and a blackplanet.com page at the same time.
Oh, I haven't seen blackplanet.com.
Oh, yeah. It was like a nightclub. Let me put it that way.
I heard. I didn't have one, but I heard of it.
Oh, yeah. It was on and popping, let me tell you.
And also to your point about the whole TikTok thing, that's very true, because it's kind of the way we can relate to it as adults is how no one watches a full award show or a full late night show. They just catch the clips on YouTube.
What have I been saying for the award shows to do for how many years now? Imagine if they put as much emphasis into their social media as the DNC is. Imagine, because let's be clear, the DNC, this is a program. It's a variety program. You can actually get an Emmy for this, and they're trying to get eyeballs. And the problem is, I think these award shows have lost sight of the fact that just because you cannot measure them in terms of Nielsen viewership, people watching TikToks is not going to translate to Nielsen numbers, that they've somehow thought it is less important. No, it's actually equally important. You just want people to be able to find your stuff. You want people to see your content. And if you prioritize social media, then you'll have a way in which you can drop breadcrumbs and they'll eventually come back to your content. But yeah, the political parties have figured it out. They figured out that if they actually want to reach younger people, they have to put social media as a priority. And both parties have done that. Now, the Democrats have gone way over the top, more than twice as many influencers and digital creators on site in the auditorium as opposed to Republicans. But that's the next battleground, the digital online space, trying to recruit new voters and be able to reach them. And here's something else. It's a lot less expensive than knocking on doors. It's basically free. You have the content. You just need people there to package it and send it out, and you can send it out immediately. Remember, put it this way, gone are the days where you need to get something in the mail, a leaflet, a flyer, someone knocking on your door and say, hey, are you registered to vote? They can do all that in a much more slick, packaged way, and then they're trying to, just grow their political base for the next possibly 30, 40 years. But it starts right now. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
No axes to grind here. What do you think we are, lumberjacks? How do you even grind an axe anyway?
KFI
and KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live.